Hello and welcome to my channel. We all know that India has reached the moon. India has become the first nation to have launched its Chandrayaan 3 satellite on the surface of the south pole of the moon. So now let's take a look at the journey which ISRO has taken in order to reach the moon. So now let's talk about what exactly are satellites. An artificial satellite basically is an object which has intentionally been placed in order to orbit around any celestial body. The celestial body can be the Earth, it can be Moon, or any other planet. Now, satellites have a variety of uses like communication relays. Communication relays means to enhance the radio telecommunication signals or to amplify them, or it can be weather forecasting or navigation like GPS, maybe broadcasting or scientific data collection and research and observation. Now, these satellites also have military uses like for sending warning signals, for intelligence purposes, as well as for weapon delivery, etc. Chandrayaan is a series of unmanned satellites which have been sent to the moon in order to collect information about the surface of the moon. Every satellite has got three parts to it. One is called as a rover, the second is lander, and the third is orbiter. So the first part is rover. Rover is a vehicle which moves around or orbits around any planet or any celestial object. Then comes the second part of the satellite. Basically, that is called as a lander. Lander is the object or the vehicle which enables the satellite to softly and safely land on the astronomical or celestial body and stay there and rest till other functions are carried out. In Chandrayaan mission, the rover is called as Pragyan and the name of the lander is Vikram. So the Pragyan rover, what it does is that it diligently collects all the data and then transfers it to Vikram, which is the lander, and then the lander acts as an intermediary or the vehicle through which all this data is collected and sent back, relayed back and transmitted to the earth, which is further taken over by the scientists for comprehensive analysis. And the third part is called as the orbiter. Orbiter is basically manned spacecraft. It carries out members. It is the heart as well as the brain and the most important part of space transportation system. An orbiter basically contains a pressurized compartment which can carry up to 7 crew members or human beings or astronomers. It even has got 3 main engines which are set at its ends. The world's first space shuttle orbiter was Enterprise, which was launched by USA, and it took its flight in 1977. The orbiter is the vehicle which enables all the crew members, all the astronomers, to return back to the Earth. It enters into the Earth's atmosphere and withstand the high temperature and acts as a glider or a plane to return back its crew members back to the Earth's surface. Chandrayaan has been the first mission of India to the moon, and it started with Chandrayaan 1. This mission began on October 2008 and extended up till 1 year in August 2009. This mission has been developed by ISRO. The full form of the abbreviation is Indian Space Research Organization. ISRO is headed by Mr. Sridhara Panikkar Somnath. Chandrayaan actually means a moon craft, which is in ancient Sanskrit. It literally means a vehicle of the moon. Chandrayaan 1 spacecraft was based upon an Indian meteorological satellite to forecast the weather conditions, which is called as Kalpana Sat, which was named after Kalpana Chawla. The total weight of Kalpan Sat is 1160 lbs, which is its dry weight, excluding any kind of fuel. It is the size of a refrigerator and is powered by solar energy, which charges lithium ion batteries which are on board, which enables Kalpanasat to function. So all this was about the background of Chandrayaan 1 mission. Now Chandrayaan 1 was launched in October 22nd, 2008. It was launched from Satish Dhawan Space Center, which is at Sriharikota. It was launched by Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle rocket, and it reached the moon surface in November 2008. It even released its Moon Impact Probe on November 2008. MIP, which is Moon Impact Probe, had been dropped to the lunar surface as a proof that India had arrived on the surface of the moon. It was designed by ISRO to test the system for future landings and also to test the thin layered atmosphere of the moon before crashing on the surface of the moon. MIP of Chandrayaan 1 collected evidences and discovered the presence of water on the surface of the moon. The Moon Impact Probe has mapped the surface of the moon in infrared as well as visible X-rays, and it has sent all this information and radiations from the lunar orbit and reflected it back to depict the various elements on the surface of the moon like minerals, ice, craters, etc. Initially, or in the beginning, what Chandrayaan 1 orbiter did was to perform a work of mapping the orbit at an altitude of about 100 meters, which is 62 miles, according to ISRO. Chandrayaan 1 had made around 3,400 orbits around the moon and continued transmitting a lot of data until August 29, 2009. After August 2009, the controllers had permanently lost control and communication with the spacecraft, and the spacecraft had got lost. The main goal of Chandrayaan 1 was to collect a lot of data about the moon surface, its geology, soil, mineralogy, that is the kind of minerals which are present, as well as the topography, the physical features on the surface of the moon. Chandrayaan 1 mission carried around 5 scientific payloads or parts from ISRO, India. They consisted of terrain mapping camera that provided a high resolution map of the moon. The second payload was hyperspectral imager, which performed mapping of minerals or mineralogical mapping. The third was lunar laser ranging, which comprised of an orbiter and an impactor. The fourth payload is high energy X-ray spectrometer, HEX. And the fifth payload is Moon Impact Probe, MIP. This mission carried 11 scientific instruments which was built by different countries like India, USA, UK, Germany, Sweden as well as Bulgaria. Its main purpose was remote sensing and obtaining information about the surface of the moon. Its launch vehicle was PSLV C-11 and the mission life was 2 years. Chandrayaan 2 is the second lunar exploration mission of India by ISRO after Chandrayaan 1. This spacecraft also consisted of a lunar orbiter, a lander called Vikram, and rover which is called as Pragyan. It was fully developed by India. The main purpose or objective was to find out the variations of lunar surface or upheavals at the surface of the moon, and also to find out the location of lunar water. Chandrayaan 2 was launched on the 22nd of July 2019 from Satish Dhawan Space Center, second launch pad in Andhra Pradesh. It was launched by a geosynchronous satellite launch vehicle Mark III. Chandrayaan 2 reached the lunar orbit and started orbiting around the moon on the 20th of August 2019. It also began orbital positioning maneuvers for the landing of Vikram the lander. Maneuver means that we need to prepare something for a mission or a goal. So all the operations were started to basically land the Vikram lander. This vehicle was supposed to land at the south pole of the moon at 70 degrees south by September 6, 2019. However, the lander crashed because it had high velocity and it was not able to control. It was supposed to soft land, but instead it had a very high velocity due to which it crashed. The lander lost its control around 7.2 kilometers from the surface of the moon. Scientists of ISRO have said that it was caused because of some software glitch. So software glitch is a software bug or an error or fault in the design or operation and development of a computer software. Even though the lander Vikram of Chandrayaan 2 was unable to land on the lunar surface and has failed in its mission, yet the orbiter is still revolving and orbiting around the lunar orbit. It has also contributed and ensured in the successful landing of Chandrayaan 3 by demarcating and finding out and identifying safe landing position of Chandrayaan 3. On August 23, 2023, India has made history. It is a landmark in the history of scientific exploration of India into the space. Chandrayaan 3 has landed successfully on the moon's surface. Only countries like USSR, US, China have gone this far. India is the fourth to land its satellite on the surface of the moon. But the most remarkable achievement is that it has become the first country to land its satellite on the south pole of the lunar surface. Why countries want to hoist their flag on the south pole of the moon? Because this part is untouched by sunlight for billions of years since the moon has been formed. This part is untouched as well as undisturbed and can give you massive records of the solar system's origin. This is the darkest part of the moon. This part of the moon faces away from the sun and has never received the solar radiations ever since it has been formed. The south pole of the moon consists of deep craters which are called as cold traps. The temperatures are extremely low. And it's also a source of vast reserve of water in the form of ice. So India has become the first country to have landed its satellite on this part of the moon and collect massive amounts of information about the origin of the moon as well as the constituents and the soil of the moon. The spacecraft was launched at Satish Dhawan Space Center, Sriharikota on July 14, 2023, and it has been a 40 days journey. The main objective of Chandrayaan 3 is to collect information and to measure plasma, which is ions and electrons, to find out the density of the moon soil and also to get more information about the seismicity and earthquakes around the site where it has been launched, as well as to find out the constituents of the lunar soil and the chemicals which are involved in it. It is to conduct various scientific research and experiments and to find out the elements of lunar water in the form of ice. On August the 1st, it was successfully inserted on the orbit of the moon. By 24th of August, rover came out of the lander and started walking on the moon. The total weight of this spacecraft is 3,900 kgs. It landed on the moon on the 23rd of August 2023 by 6:02 p.m. by Indian Standard Time. Lander Vikram and Chandrayaan rover are not supposed to return back to the Earth. They are supposed to be there on the moon. The European Space Tracking Network has operated and has helped and supported this mission by the European Space Agency. The upcoming programs of India is that it is supposed to launch its first human space flight program, Gaganyaan and Aditya LT. Meanwhile, Chandrayaan 3 is supposed to conduct and observe various scientific experiments and to collect materials which are available on the solar surface. as well as to understand the composition of the moon. Last week only, Luna 25 of Russia had crashed into the moon because it became out of control and started spinning uncontrollably, making India the first country to launch its space mission on the south pole of the lunar surface. Prime Minister Modi has congratulated all the space scientists as well as all the Indians on this occasion and grand achievement. It is indeed a giant leap